sorry, Mama, but I cannot. Please don't ask me to do this. You know I can't.
Here you go, little one. Drink this.
Thank you, Mother. It looks delicious.
The daughter woke up before the sun, not because she was rested, but because her mind would not let her sleep anymore. Her eyes opened slowly, staring at the cracked ceiling above her, while her chest already felt tight. The day had not started, yet she was already tired. She sat up and rubbed her face. Her body ached the way it did every morning. Not from hard labor alone, but from carrying too many thoughts for too long. Bills. Or expectations. The future she was chasing with all her strength. She moved quickly, almost angrily. Her feet touched the cold floor. She washed her face, tied her hair, and dressed without looking in the mirror. There was no time to check how tired she looked. There was always something more important waiting. She was a hardworking woman. Everyone who knew her said that. She did not rest. She did not complain. She believed that if she stopped even for a moment, life would swallow her whole. Success was her hunger. And hunger made her impatient. As she rushed through the small house, the signs of scarcity surrounded her. The walls were bare and faded. The shelves held only a few old dishes. The kitchen corner smelled of yesterday's thin meal. Nothing was wasted here because there was nothing extra. In the far corner of the room, her mother sat quietly. The old woman's back was slightly bent, her body thin beneath her worn clothes. Her hands rested in her lap, shaking just a little. Age had slowed her, but dignity still lived in her posture. Her eyes followed her daughter gently, with care and silence. She did not speak. She never wanted to be a problem. The daughter passed her without a glance. To her, her mother had become part of the room, always there, always quiet. Not someone she meant to ignore, but someone she had slowly learned not to see. In her heart, a feeling had grown over time. A feeling she did not like to admit. Her mother felt like a weight. Another responsibility she had not planned for. Another reminder of the life she was trying to escape. Caring for her mother took time, energy, patience, things she felt she no longer had. She told herself she was doing her best, that life was unfair, that dreams demanded sacrifice. But deep inside her chest, beneath the excuses, lived something else. Guilt. It stayed quiet, hidden under tiredness and frustration. She pushed it down every day, telling herself she would deal with it later. When life became easier. When she finally succeeded. The mother watched her daughter move back and forth like a storm passing through the room. She wanted to speak. She opened her mouth once, then closed it again. She knew her daughter was tired. She knew the world had been hard on her. So she waited. The daughter grabbed her bag, her movements sharp and fast. Her jaw was tight. Her thoughts were already outside the house, already running toward the day ahead. As she walked toward the door, the air between them felt heavy, thick with words that had never been said. With love that had slowly turned into distance. The mother shifted slightly in her seat. Her stomach growled softly, a quiet reminder she could not ignore anymore. She had eaten little the day before. Age had made hunger sharper, pain deeper. Still she hesitated. Asking felt like begging. And she never wanted to beg her own child. The daughter reached for the door. That was when the mother finally lifted her head. Her voice, when it came, was low and gentle. Not demanding. Not angry. Just tired. The daughter froze for a second. Annoyance flickered across her face before she could stop it. She did not turn around yet. In that moment, she did not see her mother as the woman who had raised her, fed her, protected her. She saw another delay. Another demand. Another problem in a day already full. Her heart hardened. And though she did not know it yet, this moment, this simple moment, was about to change everything. The silence stretched between them. Something fragile trembled in the air. Something that would soon break. The mother's voice was barely above a whisper. It did not carry anger. It did not carry demand. Carried only need. She spoke slowly as if each word took strength she did not have. Her eyes stayed low, never rising fully to meet her daughter's face. She did not want to pressure her. She did not want to be a burden. She only asked for a little food. Just enough to quiet the pain in her stomach. The daughter stood near the door, her hand still resting on the handle. For a moment she said nothing. Her chest tightened, not with care but with irritation. Her mind was already racing ahead. Appointments, deadlines, promises she feared she would break. She felt trapped between the clock and her conscience. And the clock was louder. She let out a sharp breath and turned halfway, not fully facing her mother. Her eyes glanced over her briefly, then moved away again. The look on her face was tired, hard, and closed. She spoke quickly. Not now. The words fell heavy in the room. She added more, not to soften them but to defend herself. She spoke of how there was little food left. How she was late. How life was difficult. How everything could not fall on her shoulders. Each reason built a wall. Her voice grew colder with every word. She did not notice how her mother's hands began to shake more. She did not notice the way the old woman's shoulders slowly sank, as if the strength holding her upright had finally given up. The mother looked down at the empty bowl beside her. It had been washed and placed there earlier, waiting. Now it sat useless, catching the light from the window like a quiet accusation. For a moment the mother's lips trembled. She wanted to say something. Anything. But she didn't. She had learned long ago that silence sometimes hurt less than rejection. She nodded slowly, accepting the answer without protest. Her eyes grew wet, but no tears fell. Pride kept them back. Pain stayed where no one could see it. The daughter turned fully toward the door. She did not say goodbye. She did not look back. The door closed with a dull sound that echoed through the small house. The noise faded, but what it left behind remained. Inside, the mother sat alone. The light in the room slowly shifted as the sun climbed higher. Shadows moved across the floor. The bowl remained empty. Her hands rested in her lap, trembling, cold. She swallowed hard, pressing a hand lightly against her stomach. Hunger burned, but deeper than that was something worse. Abandonment. Outside, the daughter walked fast, already pushing the moment out of her mind. She told herself she would fix it later. That it wasn't a big thing. That her mother would be fine. Life was harsh, she thought. Hard choices had to be made. She never once wondered if this was one of them. As she disappeared down the road, the house stood silent behind her. And in that silence, something sacred had been denied. Something that would not be forgotten. The day moved on, but the daughter could not fully escape herself. She worked. She walked. She spoke to people. She completed tasks. From the outside she looked normal, focused, strong, determined. No one could see the weight pressing down inside her chest. But small things kept pulling her back. A smell from a food stall stopped her for a moment. Warm bread. Steaming porridge. The scent drifted through the air, and without warning, her mind slipped backward in time. She saw herself as a child. Small. Thin. Sitting on the floor of the same house, her legs crossed, her stomach aching with hunger. The memory felt real, sharp enough to sting. Her mother sat in front of her then, younger but already tired. A single bowl of food rested between them. The mother smiled and pushed the bowl toward her child. Eat, she had said back then. The daughter remembered how she ate quickly, greedily, never questioning why her mother didn't join her. Only later did she understand that there had not been enough for both of them. The memory faded, but it did not leave her alone. As she continued her day, other moments followed. Her mother standing in the rain, waiting for her to return from school. Her mother skipping meals so school fees could be paid. Her mother pretending she was full when her stomach was empty. Sacrifice had been her mother's language of love. The daughter stopped walking. Her chest tightened. Her throat burned. For a brief moment, guilt rose up like a wave, threatening to pull her under. She pictured her mother sitting at home now, alone, weak, with nothing to eat. Her mind whispered, "You should go back." But another voice answered louder. "You don't have time. You can't fix everything. You've already gone too far." She clenched her jaw and pushed the thoughts away. She told herself the past was the past. That she owed no one explanations. That survival demanded hardness. Still, the memories kept coming. She remembered nights when she was sick, and her mother stayed awake, wiping her face, whispering comfort. She remembered warm hands, soft songs, patient love. And now she had walked away. The contrast burned. The warmth of the past clashed painfully with the coldness of the present. The love she once received stood in sharp opposition to the neglect she now gave. Her steps slowed. People passed her, unaware of the storm inside her. She swallowed hard, forcing her face back into its usual mask of control. Later, she told herself, "I will make it right later." But deep inside, she knew the truth she was trying to avoid. Later was not guaranteed. The guilt settled quietly, like a shadow that refused to leave. It did not scream. It did not accuse. It waited. And as the day faded into evening, the echoes of the past followed her home, soft, persistent, and heavy with meaning. Night arrived without mercy. By the time the daughter returned home, the sky was already dark, and the streets were almost empty. Her steps were slower now. Not because she was less tired, but because the weight in her chest had grown heavier with each passing hour. The house greeted her with silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that presses against the ears. The kind that makes every sound feel louder than it should be. She paused at the doorway, her hand resting on the doorframe. For a moment, she expected to hear movement. A cough. A chair shifting. Her mother's quiet presence. There was nothing. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. The familiar room looked the same yet felt wrong. The shadows clung to the corners. The air felt thick, heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath. She placed her bag down and walked toward the kitchen. A small pot sat on the stove. Cold. Empty. She prepared a simple meal for herself. The motions were slow now, almost careless. When she finally sat down to eat, she noticed how quiet everything was. Even the spoon against the bowl sounded too loud. She took the first bite. The food had no taste. She chewed, swallowed, and took another bite, but it felt wrong. The warmth of the meal did not comfort her. Instead, a strange bitterness settled in her mouth. She ate anyway. Her stomach filled, but her heart remained uneasy. As she ate, small sounds reached her ears. The soft creak of wood. The faint rustle of something moving in the dark. She looked toward her mother's room once, then quickly looked away. She did not go to check. She told herself her mother was asleep, that she needed rest more than worry, that tomorrow would be better. When she finished eating, she washed her bowl and placed it on the shelf. The empty bowl from earlier still sat where it had been, clean and untouched. She noticed it for a second. Then she turned away. She lay down on her bed and stared at the ceiling, the same cracks she had seen that morning. Her body was exhausted, but her mind refused to rest. Images from the day flickered in her thoughts. Her mother's lowered eyes, the empty bowl, the memories that had followed her all afternoon. She shifted under the thin blanket. The room felt colder than usual. A strange unease crept into her chest. Not fear exactly. More like a quiet warning she did not yet understand. She closed her eyes. Sleep came slowly, like a heavy door closing inch by inch. As her breathing deepened, the house remained still. Too still. And somewhere between waking and sleep, something unseen began to stir. At first, the daughter thought she was still awake. She stood inside her house, exactly where she had fallen asleep. The walls were the same. The floor was the same. Even the faint smell of food lingered in the air. Everything looked familiar. Too familiar. She took a step forward, and the sound of her foot against the floor echoed strangely, louder than it should have been. The noise lingered, stretching out unnaturally as if the house itself were hollow. A chill ran through her body. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how cold she felt. Not the kind of cold that comes from night air, but a deeper cold, one that settled into her bones. Her stomach tightened. Hunger struck her without warning. Sure. Painful. It twisted inside her, making her bend slightly at the waist. She had eaten before sleeping, yet now she felt as though she had not eaten in days. She swallowed hard and looked around. On the table, food appeared. Bread. Bowls. Plates filled with warm meals. Relief washed over her, quick and desperate. She rushed forward and reached for the nearest plate. The moment her fingers touched it, the food crumbled into dust. She gasped and pulled her hand back. The plate vanished. The table was suddenly bare. Her heart began to pound. She turned slowly, searching the room. On the shelf, more bowls appeared, full again, steaming softly. She stepped closer, more cautious this time. As soon as she leaned in, the bowls tipped over by themselves. Empty. The hunger grew worse. Her legs felt weak. Her mouth felt dry. She pressed a hand against her stomach, breathing harder now. This isn't real, she tried to tell herself. But the dream did not listen. A sound drifted through the house. Soft. Familiar. Her mother's voice. It did not call loudly. It did not cry out. It floated gently through the air, broken and distant, like an echo carried by wind. The daughter's head snapped up. She turned toward the hallway. "Mother?" she whispered, unsure if the word even left her mouth. She stepped forward, her bare feet cold against the floor. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground resisted her weight. The walls began to change. Cracks spread slowly across them, crawling like veins. The light dimmed, turning pale and weak. Shadows thickened, clinging to the corners and doorways. Her mother's voice came again. Closer now. But when the daughter reached the end of the hall, the room was empty. Her chest tightened with fear. She moved faster, turning into another corridor, then another. The house twisted and expanded, no longer following any shape she recognized. Doors appeared where there had been none before. Some were open. Some were sealed shut. From one open doorway she glimpsed a table set with food. Her stomach clenched painfully. She rushed toward it. Before she could reach it, the floor beneath her feet cracked open with a deep, echoing sound. She cried out and stumbled back as the ground split apart. Beneath the crack lay dry earth, gray, broken, lifeless. The table vanished. The house began to fade, replaced by a wide, empty land. She stood in the middle of it, alone. The ground was cracked and dry, stretching endlessly in every direction. Dead plants stood frozen in place, their leaves curled and brittle. The sky above was dull and colorless, heavy and unmoving. Her hunger became unbearable. It was no longer just pain, it was panic. Her body shook. Her breathing grew shallow. She fell to her knees, pressing both hands into the dry soil. "Please," she whispered, though she did not know who she was begging. The soil crumbled beneath her fingers. No matter where she touched, nothing grew. Nothing lived. She looked up and saw something in the distance. A figure. Her heart leapt. She struggled to her feet and ran toward it, her legs weak, her vision blurring. With every step the figure became clearer. It was her mother. She stood far away, her back turned. Her body looked smaller than before, thinner, almost fading into the dull air around her. "Mother?" the daughter cried out. The figure did not turn. The daughter ran harder, ignoring the pain in her legs, the fire in her stomach. But no matter how fast she moved, the distance between them never closed. The ground beneath her feet cracked again, wider this time. She stumbled and fell, scraping her hands against the hard earth. When she looked up, her mother was gone. The sky darkened. A wind rose, cold and sharp, carrying whispers she could not understand. Empty bowls appeared around her, scattered across the ground. Some were broken. Some were clean but useless. Everywhere she looked, there was food that could not be eaten. Water that could not be drunk. Shelter that offered no warmth. Her body shook violently now. Tears filled her eyes, but they offered no relief. "This is wrong," she sobbed. "This isn't how it should be." But deep inside, a terrible understanding began to form. The hunger she felt was familiar. It was the hunger she had ignored. The pain she felt was borrowed, from someone she had turned away. The land around her grew darker, more hostile. The cracked earth spread farther, swallowing everything. The air grew heavy, pressing down on her chest until each breath felt like a struggle. And then, silence. Complete and absolute. The wind stopped. The whispers vanished. The world stood still. She stood alone, shaking, hungry, afraid, knowing without being told that this dream had only just begun. The silence did not bring peace. It pressed down on her like a weight, thick and suffocating. The daughter stood frozen in the middle of the barren land, her breath shallow, her body trembling from hunger and fear. Then the ground shifted. Not violently, but slowly, as if the earth itself were waking up. The cracked soil beneath her feet began to smooth over, turning dark and reflective like still water. She looked down and gasped. She could see herself. Not the version she believed herself to be. Not the hardworking, struggling woman she defended so fiercely. She saw something colder. She watched herself standing in the doorway of her home, her back turned, her face tight with impatience. She watched her own lips move, refusing, dismissing, denying. The scene replayed again. And again. Each time clearer. Sharper. She watched her mother's hands tremble. Watched the old woman lower her eyes. Watched the empty bowl sit between them like a silent witness. "No," she whispered. "Stop." But the dream did not stop. The reflection changed. Now she stood outside herself, watching how others saw her. Neighbors passed by without noticing the old woman inside the house. Life continued. People laughed. Food was sold and eaten. And inside that small house, her mother sat alone. Unseen. Unfed. The daughter's chest tightened painfully. "That's not who I am," she cried. "I was tired. I was trying." The ground rippled again. New images rose. She saw her mother, younger, stronger, standing in the same house years ago. She saw the woman divide a small meal in half, pushing most of it toward a child who ate without question. She saw nights of hunger endured quietly, days of sacrifice carried without complaint. Then the image shifted. Back to the present. She saw herself eating alone. She saw herself turning away. The contrast struck like a blow. The ground beneath her feet hardened suddenly, forcing her to stumble forward. Her stomach burned fiercely now, as if something inside her were tearing itself apart. She dropped to her knees. "I didn't mean to," she sobbed. "I didn't know it would be like this." A presence appeared before her. Her mother. She stood only a few steps away now. Not thin. Not frail. But wrapped in a quiet strength that felt ancient and unshakable. Her face held no anger. That hurt the most. Her eyes were filled with something deeper, disappointment mixed with sorrow. A look that asked no questions because it already knew the answers. The daughter crawled toward her, hands digging into the ground. "I'm hungry," she cried. "Please." The mother did not move. Around them, bowls appeared again. Plates piled high with food. Water flowed in clear streams nearby. Warm bread lay within reach. The daughter lunged for it. Her hands passed straight through. Nothing. She tried again, desperation rising to panic. Her stomach screamed. Her throat tightened. She reached for her mother. Her hand met empty air. The world responded with indifference. The land began to close in. The cracked earth rose around her like walls. The sky pressed lower. The air thinned. She understood now. This was judgment. Not shouted. Not violent. But exact. She was being given what she had given. Hunger. Neglect. Silence. She screamed, her voice breaking. Tears streamed down her face as she pressed her forehead to the ground. "I see it now," she begged. "Please let me fix it." The mother's image began to fade. As she disappeared, her voice filled the air, not loud, not cruel, but final. The hunger grew unbearable. The world darkened. And just as the fear reached its peak, the ground split open beneath her feet. She fell. She woke up screaming. Her body jerked upright as if she had been pulled from deep water. Her breath came fast and uneven, tearing through her chest. Sweat soaked her clothes, clinging coldly to her skin. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. For a moment she did not know where she was. The darkness of the room pressed in around her. The walls seemed too close. The air felt thin, heavy, hard to breathe. She gasped and pressed a hand against her stomach. It still burned. The hunger from the dream clung to her, sharp and real, as if it had followed her back into the waking world. Her hands shook as she touched her face, her arms, her chest, checking, grounding herself. "It was just a dream," she whispered. But her voice did not believe it. A deep chill ran through her, even though the room was warm. Her mouth felt dry. Her throat tight. Guilt sat heavy in her chest, thick and suffocating. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood, her knees weak beneath her weight. The house was silent. Not the quiet of rest, but the quiet of absence. A faint gray light slipped through the window. Dawn was breaking. Morning had come quietly, without warning, without comfort. Her eyes moved toward her mother's room. Fear struck her like a blow. She had not checked on her. Not before sleeping. Not during the night. The memory crashed into her, sharp and cruel. Her heart began to race again. She moved quickly now, nearly running down the narrow hallway. Each step echoed too loudly in her ears. The walls felt cold as she brushed past them. She reached her mother's door. It was slightly open. Her hand hovered in the air for a moment, trembling. She held her breath as she pushed it wider. The room was dim. Her mother lay on the bed, still and small beneath the thin blanket. Her face looked pale, almost gray in the early light. Her chest rose slowly, unevenly. The daughter rushed forward. "Mother," she whispered, her voice breaking. No response. She dropped to her knees beside the bed, her hands shaking as she reached out. Her mother's skin felt cold. Too cold. Panic flooded her. Her chest tightened until it felt like it might burst. Tears filled her eyes, blurring her vision. "Please," she whispered again, louder now. "Please wake up." The dream rushed back into her mind, the hunger, the silence, the empty bowls. This wasn't just fear anymore. This was consequence. She pressed her forehead against the bed, sobbing softly, her whole body shaking. Regret crashed over her in waves, heavy and merciless. "I was warned," she thought. I was warned and I didn't listen. The morning light grew brighter, but it brought no comfort. Only the terrible weight of not knowing if she was already too late. Her hands shook as she clutched her mother's frail body, but the cold that clung to her mother was more than just the morning air. Her pulse was faint, barely there. Every breath sounded like a struggle, shallow and uneven. The daughter's heart sank. Pain, fear, and regret collided in her chest. Her knees pressed into the floor as she pressed her hands harder against her mother, willing her to wake, to move, to speak. But nothing happened. Memories of the dream returned all at once. The barren land, the empty bowls, the food she could not reach, her mother's disappointed gaze. It was not just a dream. It had been a warning. And now the warning felt terrifyingly real. Tears blurred her vision as she shook her mother gently. "Mother, please, wake up. Please." Her mind raced. She remembered the bowl she had denied her. The simple request, humble and small. The sharpness of her refusal. Every excuse she had made now sounded hollow, meaningless. I thought I was busy," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I thought I'd make it later." Her mother's eyes remained closed. The old woman's lips pressed together, her body trembling slightly from weakness, but not enough to rise. The daughter's chest heaved. Regret clawed at her heart like fire. She felt as though she were suffocating in the weight of her own mistakes. She could see now the truth she had avoided for so long. Neglect has consequences, and warnings ignored do not vanish quietly. Frantically, she tried to remember what to do. She called for help, shaking, crying, whispering apologies that felt too small to matter. She held her mother's hand, so thin and fragile, so unsteady beneath her own trembling fingers. The mother stirred faintly, a soft exhale escaping her lips, but her strength was fading. Each movement seemed like a monumental effort. The daughter's chest tightened with terror. "I should have listened," she sobbed. "I should have cared. I should have given you everything you needed." She felt the weight of the hours she had walked away, the meals she had ignored, the love she had postponed. It crashed down on her all at once. The house was quiet again, but now it was not empty, it was heavy with consequence. The daughter realized that life does not pause for regret. Warnings do not wait. Time does not forgive those who hesitate. She clutched her mother closer, rocking gently, murmuring apologies, trying to undo what she could not. Every touch, every whispered word was too late, and yet it was all she had. For the first time, she truly understood the depth of her mother's sacrifice, the quiet endurance, the patience and love that had shaped her life and sustained her. And now, almost too late, she faced the bitter truth. She had repaid it with neglect. The room felt impossibly still. Her mother lay there, fragile and quiet, the line between life and death thin and trembling. The daughter's sobs shook her, leaving her exhausted, hollow, and filled with an aching realization. She had ignored a simple request. She had ignored love. And now, standing in the cold light of morning, she understood that some lessons are learned too late, and some consequences cannot be undone. The days that followed were quiet, tender, and slow. The daughter had become a presence her mother could depend on, and with each passing hour she felt a deep shift within herself. Actions once taken for granted, bringing a meal, offering a warm blanket, helping her mother move, now carried meaning she had never understood. Her mother's eyes, though still gentle, held a quiet strength. Sometimes she would look at her daughter and smile softly, not with words, but with the calm acknowledgement of forgiveness. A silent grace that spoke louder than any apology. The daughter learned to listen, not just to her mother's words but to her silence. She learned the language of care, preparing what was needed before it was asked, noticing the small aches and fatigue, giving time, patience, and attention without complaint. In those moments, she reflected deeply on the lessons the dream had given her. How fragile life could be. How easily neglect could leave a permanent mark. How even a single act, or refusal, could ripple outward in ways she could not have imagined. She realized that love is not something to be postponed. It is not something to be saved for later, when life is easier. It is practiced every day in the small gestures, in the quiet presence, in the deliberate choice to care for those who once cared for us. And in practicing that love, she discovered her own redemption. It was not dramatic. It did not erase the past. But it built a bridge forward, one small act at a time, one moment of care at a time. The fear, the guilt, and the regret had not vanished, but they had transformed into something powerful: responsibility, understanding, and a renewed heart. One morning, as the sun spilled light across the room, she helped her mother sit by the window. Together they watched the day begin. A warm breeze carried the smell of food from the small garden outside. A simple meal awaited them, prepared with care. Her mother reached out and held her daughter's hand. The touch was soft, patient, forgiving. And in that silent moment, the daughter understood that the bond between them had not been broken. It had been tested, stretched, and now strengthened. She whispered quietly, mostly to herself, "I will not wait again. I will not turn away. I see you. I honor you. I love you." Her mother's eyes glimmered, not with accusation but with quiet acceptance. The daughter's heart swelled, not with relief alone, but with the deep understanding that love, once acted upon, heals both giver and receiver. The lesson remained clear. Life is fleeting, parents are irreplaceable, and love is meant to be shown, not postponed. And as they sat together, hand in hand, the daughter felt a calm she had never known. She had faced fear, guilt, and the possibility of loss, and emerged determined to live differently. The house was no longer just a building filled with walls and empty bowls. It had become a home again, a place of warmth, care, and presence. In that moment she understood fully, the heart's work is never done, but every effort matters. Every act of love counts, and the smallest kindness can be the most profound redemption. The days that followed were quiet but alive with meaning. The daughter's life, once measured by deadlines, work, and ambition, now moved to a slower rhythm, one dictated by presence, care, and attention. She learned to notice every small thing, the way her mother's hands shook when lifting a cup, the faint sigh when she shifted in bed, the tired lines around her eyes that spoke of decades of sacrifice. She no longer rushed. She no longer hurried past the little things. Each moment became precious, a chance to honor the woman who had given her everything. Preparing meals, washing clothes, cleaning the home, these acts, once tedious, became prayers of love. Every touch, every gesture carried a depth she had never felt before. Her mother responded in quiet, patient ways. Sometimes a smile, small but full of understanding, would appear when the daughter placed a warm blanket across her shoulders. Sometimes she simply rested her head in her daughter's lap, eyes closed, trusting that her child had finally seen her. There was no grand apology, no dramatic declaration of forgiveness, just a steady, patient grace that spoke louder than words ever could. The daughter reflected on the dream that had terrified her, the barren lands, the unreachable food, the emptiness and cold. She realized it was not punishment but revelation. The dream had shown her the consequences of her neglect, yes, but it had also shown her the path forward. The hunger she had felt in that nightmare was mirrored in her mother's real-life vulnerability. It was not too late to act, but the window had been narrow. She began to understand something she had avoided for years. Love is not something to be postponed. It is not something to save for the right moment. It is practiced daily, in the quiet, in the patient, in the selfless choices made without thought of reward. The true measure of a life, she realized, is how deeply we care for those who gave us life, even when it is inconvenient, tiring, or difficult. The daughter started each morning with intention. She prepared her mother's favorite porridge, arranged the small house with care, and spent long hours simply sitting with her, talking softly, listening, and learning. She discovered the deep power of presence, of giving undivided attention to someone who needs it most. Pride, ambition, and impatience had once ruled her life, but now they were replaced with humility, patience, and love. One morning, as the sunlight spilled golden across the worn floors of their home, she helped her mother to the window. Together, they watched the day wake, the gentle sway of the trees, the distant laughter of children, the warm smell of fresh bread drifting in from a nearby market. The daughter reached for her mother's hand. The touch was tender, deliberate, and full of unspoken promise. She would never turn away again. Her mother looked at her, eyes calm and unwavering, filled with quiet forgiveness. There was no blame. There was only understanding, a recognition of human imperfection and the possibility of change. The daughter felt tears fall freely, not from fear, not from regret, but from a profound gratitude. "I will not wait again," she whispered. "I see you. I honor you. I love you. Every day." Her mother's hand squeezed hers softly. No words were needed. That gentle pressure carried decades of wisdom, sacrifice, and unconditional love. And in that touch, the daughter felt a sense of peace that had eluded her for years. She realized fully that the dream, the terror, the regret, all of it had served a purpose. It had taught her that neglect has consequences, but that remorse can lead to transformation. That fear can awaken compassion. That love, when acted upon, can heal not only others but the one who gives it. Time continued to move forward, as relentless as ever, but the daughter's understanding had deepened. Life, she understood, is fragile. Parents are irreplaceable. Love is meant to be shown, not postponed. And small gestures, preparing a meal, offering a hand, listening with patience, can carry more weight than words ever could. The house, once silent and heavy, now felt alive. The walls held warmth, the rooms carried comfort, and every corner reminded her of what truly mattered. The daughter understood that redemption is not a single act, but a lifetime of choices made with intention, care, and humility. She knelt beside her mother one evening, brushing a lock of gray hair from her forehead. "I will spend every day making this right," she promised softly. "I will honor you, love you, and never turn away again. I see you. I feel you. I am here." Her mother's eyes glimmered with quiet pride and understanding. She did not need words, for her presence spoke volumes. And in that shared silence, the daughter finally understood the depth of her mother's life, her sacrifices, and the enduring power of love. And as they sat together, hand in hand, the daughter reflected on the lesson that had cost her nearly everything. Love cannot wait. It must be practiced. It must be shown. And in showing it, we find not only forgiveness, but redemption, peace, and the ability to become the person we are meant to be.